Have you ever felt like your mind is moving faster than your words? Like you have the perfect thought, but when you try to say it out loud, it doesn't come out the way you imagined. If you're multilingual, this probably happens even more often. I know because I went there too. For the longest time, I struggled with articulation, not because I didn't have the words, but because my brain was juggling between languages, accents, and even ways of thinking. And I know I'm not alone in this, whether you speak one language or three. Articulation is more than just speaking clearly, it's about expressing thoughts in a way that truly connects. In today's episode, we're diving into the psychology behind articulation, how our brain processes language, why being multilingual can be both a superpower and a struggle, and how we can improve the way we express ourselves. I'm Mohammed, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Surface podcast. So, why do some people articulate effortlessly while others struggle? And most importantly, what we can do about it? We've talked about how articulation works and why multilinguals sometimes struggle with it in the previous episode, right? But now let's go deeper. How does knowing multiple languages actually shape the way we think and speak? For starters, each language comes with its own structure, rhythm, and a way of expressing ideas. Some languages are more direct, while others rely heavily on nuance and context. The Culture Map, a book by Mayer, explores how different cultures communicate using high context and low context styles. In high context cultures, common in many Asian, Middle Eastern, and Latin American countries, communication relies heavily on shared understanding, unspoken cues, and reading between the lines, or what the Japanese call reading the air. In contrast, low context cultures like those in North America and much of Western Europe prioritize clarity and explicitness, expecting people to say exactly what they mean. This difference can be seen in both business and social interactions, shaping how people express themselves and interpret others. For example, in English, we often say exactly what we mean, but in languages like Arabic or Turkish, indirect expressions and implied meanings play a huge role. This means that when you switch between languages, your thought patterns also shift, influencing how you express yourself. And then there's the emotional connection we have with different languages. You might feel more logical and structured when you speak one language, but more expressive and passionate in another. Studies show that people tend to be more emotionally detached when speaking in a second language, meaning you might find it easier to talk about difficult or sensitive topics in English rather than your native language. This is because our first language is deeply tied to early emotional experiences, while additional languages are often learned in more neutral and academic settings. Another key aspect is code switching, which is when multilinguals switch between languages mid-conversation. This isn't just about forgetting a word, it's often a way of finding the most precise or emotionally fitting expression. Sometimes one language simply conveys an idea better than another. This is why multilinguals mix languages naturally when speaking with others who understand them. But what about articulation? Well, if you are switching between languages, it's no surprise that your brain hesitates or takes longer to find the right words. This is called retriever interference, where different languages compete in your brain, making it harder to articulate thoughts fluently. So, what's the takeaway? Multilingualism is a gift. It broadens our thinking and makes us more adaptable and allows us to see the world from multiple perspectives. But it also presents challenges when it comes to articulation. The good news? There are practical ways to improve it. Now, let's dive into actionable strategies for enhancing articulation. From improving clarity and pronunciation to using body language and active listening techniques. Let's dive into how enhance verbal clarity and pronunciation. Whether you are speaking in public or having a casual conversation, clear articulation is key to effective communication, but how do we get there? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about speech pacing. It's easy to rush through words, especially when we are excited or nervous. But pacing is crucial for clarity. Speaking too quickly can make it harder for your listener to catch every word, while speaking too slowly might cause them to lose interest. I struggle with this a lot myself because I didn't realize how important pacing is in real conversations. I used to speak so fast that I often had to repeat myself that just the other person could understand me. It was really frustrating at the time, but that's okay. It's never too late to improve. The goal here is to find a balance. You want to speak at a moderate pace, giving each idea the space it needs to be understood. To practice this, try recording yourself while reading a passage or discussing a topic. Listen back and see if you are speaking too fast or too slow. This technique helped me a lot, to be honest. Also, you can try to consciously slow down and focus on hitting each syllable without dragging out your words. Over time, this will help you find the perfect balance. Next, let's talk about enunciation. How clearly you pronounce your words. If you are mumbling or dropping syllables, your message can get lost. The key to enunciation is being deliberate with your words, focusing on articulating each sound properly. Now let's go over some practical exercise to help you improve both pacing and enunciation. First, we have the pausing technique. Take a brief pause between sentences. This will help you slow down and give your listener time to absorb what you're saying. It also prevents you from rushing into the next thought without finishing the current one. Second, we have a technique called shadowing exercise. For example, find a podcast or a video with clear, slow speakers. Play a short clip and try to repeat what they say immediately after they say it, matching their pacing and enunciation. This technique can help you develop better rhythm and clarity. For example, I used to apply this technique while listening to speakers whose articulation I usually admire. Remember, the goal is not perfection. It's about being clear, being understood, and being engaging. Keep practicing, and soon these habits will become second nature. Now let's move to something just as important as what we say, how we say it. In this part, we will explore the power of body language and active listening. It's not just the words we speak, but the several cues we give off with our gestures, postures, and facial expressions that can make all the difference in communication. When we communicate, our bodies are constantly sending signals, whether we realize it or not. These signals can either support or contradict our words. For instance, maintaining eye contact can convey confidence, while fidgeting or avoiding eye contact might suggest nervousness or uncertainty. But body language isn't just about how we sit or stand, it's also about gestures. Small movements like nodding, leaning forward, or using your hands to emphasize points can create a deeper connection with your listener. Think about when you're speaking with someone who is truly engaged. They might smile, raise their eyebrows, or mirror your movements. These actions reinforce the conversation and make it feel more engaging. Now let's move to something else and talk about active listening. Active listening goes beyond just hearing the words. It's about being fully present in the conversation, showing empathy, and responding in ways that demonstrate you're paying attention. One of the best ways to practice active listening is by giving verbal and nonverbal cues, like nodding, maintaining eye contact, and even mirroring the other person's posture or expressions. These cues tell the speaker that you're engaged and care about what they're saying. This actually brings us to a fantastic book by Lael Lowndes, How to Talk to Anyone. Lael gives us an incredible insight into how small changes in body language and communication can drastically improve our interactions. One of her key points is about the high-status body language. This involves things like keeping your posture open, avoiding crossing your arms, and speaking with a calm, steady voice. These signals are subtle but powerful. Without saying a word, you're telling the other person that you're confident, approachable, and in control. Another fantastic piece of advice from Lael is the concept of the exclusive smile. It's a smile that's not just for anyone, but for someone who really matters. When you give someone an exclusive smile, you're making them feel special, like they are the only person in the room. This is a great way to build rapport and create a positive, engaging atmosphere in any conversation. Lael also touches on how to make the most of your first impression. For instance, she suggests using the sticky eyes technique, where you maintain strong, steady eye contact for a few extra seconds during your initial greeting. This builds trust instantly and makes you appear more sincere and engaged. Right after I read this book, I tried most of the techniques in my daily life. It turned out really effective and practical most of the time. So, to wrap this up, here's how you can start applying these concepts to your own communication. Be mindful of your body language. Listen actively. Show that you're genuinely interested by nodding, maintaining eye contact, and giving thoughtful responses. The next time you talk to someone, offer them a smile that makes them feel unique and valued. Try these techniques during your next conversation. They are simple, but they work wonders in creating an immediate connection. Remember, body language and active listening are incredibly powerful tools. When used intentionally, they can elevate your conversation and help you build stronger relationships. We've covered a lot already, but now let's dive into some of the most common communication barriers and mistakes people often make. First, let's talk about some of the barriers to clear communication. One of the most significant obstacles is misunderstanding. Whether it's due to cultural differences, language barriers, or even different personal experience, we all interpret words and situations through our own lenses. This happens a lot, especially when you are dealing with people from different cultures. For example, hugging a business partner or giving them gifts might actually be seen as an inappropriate gesture or even a negative thing in some cultures. This is something that's also mentioned in the Culture Map, the book I recommended earlier. This means what you say might not always be received in the way you intend. Another common barrier is emotional interference. When emotions run high, whether it's anger, anxiety, or frustration, communications becomes clouded. We might say things we don't mean, misinterpret others' words, or shut down altogether. Finally, there's the barrier of distractions. Distractions can make it difficult to focus on the conversation at hand. This affects both speaking and listening, causing us to miss important details or lose our train of thought. Sometimes we get caught up in saying the perfect thing that we forget communication is about connection actually, not perfection. Worrying about every word can make us sound like stiff and rehearsed, So, to avoid this, focus on the message, not just the delivery. Authenticity is often more important than precision, and people will appreciate your genuine engagement over perfect wording. Another big mistake is overwhelming your listener with too much information at once. It's tempting to share everything we know, but this can make the conversation feel more like a monologue than a dialogue actually. Instead, focus on key points and leave space for the other person to respond. I used to make this mistake a lot actually, especially when I meet someone I want to impress. To overcome these communication barriers, it's important to stay present and adjust your approach depending on the situation. If you are dealing with a culture or language barrier, be patient and open to asking clarifying questions. Now, let's talk about some practical tips for overcoming communication barriers. First, slow down. Rushing can lead to mistakes. Take your time to articulate your thoughts clearly and listen attentively. Then we have a technique called clarify and confirm. If you are unsure about something, ask. Don't be afraid to repeat or paraphrase information to ensure that you've understood correctly. In fact, repeating or paraphrasing what the other person says shows that you're actively engaged, and it can really enhance your communication. Now, let's explore one of the most crucial aspects of effective communication: confidence. It doesn't matter how well you know your material or how skilled you are at articulation if you don't have the confidence to express yourself. Confidence is the key to speaking with impact and commanding attention in any conversation. Now let's dive into some strategies for building that confidence and truly owning your words. Confidence in communication is about more than just believing in yourself. It's about conveying your message with conviction and being fully present in the moment. When you speak with confidence, people are more likely to trust what you say. Pay attention and be engaged in the conversation. Think about the leaders, speakers, or influencers you admire. What sets them apart? It's the ability to communicate with confidence actually. When they speak, they don't hesitate or second guess themselves. Though, unfortunately, some leaders may exploit this, but when they speak with confidence, it makes their message truly powerful. A major barrier to confident communication is self-doubt. We often worry about what others will think or whether we will make a mistake, but the truth is, self-doubt can be paralyzing and it holds us back from expressing ourselves clearly. Instead, you should embrace imperfection. No one speaks perfectly all the time, and that's okay. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's part of the process. The more you practice, the more comfortable and confident you will become. Another great way to overcome self-doubt is through positive self-talk. Instead of focusing on the what-ifs and potential failures, focus on what you're good at and remind yourself of your strengths. By reinforcing your positive qualities, you can shift your mindset towards success. Confidence is also about being impactful. To make a lasting impression, you need to speak with purpose and focus on delivering your message with clarity and intention. Whether you are speaking to one person or to a group, try to make the conversation interactive. Ask questions, be curious, and encourage feedback. When you engage with your listener, you not only build rapport, but you also increase your own confidence as the conversation flows naturally. Now, one of the most effective ways to boost your confidence is by preparing thoroughly. The more prepared you are, the more at ease you will feel when it's time to speak. This applies to speeches, presentations, or even casual conversations. If you know your material, you'll feel less anxious about forgetting key points or stumbling over your words. And finally, try to visualize yourself before entering a conversation or presentation. Take a few moments to visualize yourself speaking confidently. Imagine the positive reactions of your audience or the success of your conversation. This mental preparation can help you reduce anxiety and boost your self-assurance. Now, remember, authenticity plays a huge role in confident communication. When you speak from a place of sincerity and passion, your words carry more weight. People are more likely to be drawn to your message if they sense that it comes from a genuine place. To be honest, I'm still working on this too. Building confidence in communication is something that takes time, and it's something I struggled with as well. But the key thing here is consistency. The more you practice, the more confident you will become. So keep pushing forward. It's not about being perfect, it's about showing up and staying committed to your improving. So yeah, we've covered a lot today. We dove into some key aspects of communication. We started by talking about the power of clear articulation, how enunciation, pacing, and practice can really help us speak more clearly. We explored some practical exercise that you can use to improve your speech and avoid rushing through words, which can often muddle our message. After that, we moved to nonverbal communication, body language, and active listening. I shared how small gestures, facial expressions, and tone can make a huge difference in how your message is received. Then, we went into building confidence in communication. I shared strategies like preparation, visualization that can help you speak with more confidence and make a real impact in your conversation. Now, remember, communication is a skill that can always be refined, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. It's gonna take time. It's not gonna happen overnight. Whether you're speaking to a large audience or having a casual conversation, every opportunity is a chance to grow and improve. The key to improving your communication skills is consistency. In fact, one of the main reasons I started this podcast was to enhance my own communication abilities. But it doesn't always have to be through a podcast. If you have someone you can practice speeches or conversation with, that's awesome. The important thing is to find a method that works best for you. Whether it's starting a YouTube channel, running your own podcast, or even working with a personal speaking coach, these are all great ways to practice, especially for more formal skills like sales or public speaking. Find your unique approach and keep practicing. It's all about staying consistent. So yeah, this is the end of our episode. I hope you found today's episode helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts, by the way. Feel free to reach out, share your experiences, or even ask any questions. You can connect with us via our email. I will drop the links in the description. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you don't miss the next episodes. Stay curious and see you next episode.